Hey everyone, welcome back to Free the Money. Today I'm joined again by Dr. Jim Willie to break down what's really going on beneath the headlines, from war and oil to the bond market and the future of the US economy. Dr. Jim Willie holds a PhD in statistics. He is a statistical analyst and an expert in macroeconomics. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jim Willie.
We're in dangerous times. Since I moved, we started a new war.
Yeah, yes, we
And
did.
we have to remember they're all noble, right? They're all noble wars. we're always in a war and they're all noble, right? We're fighting for freedom, right? The war on terrorism in 2002, that was to eliminate the competitors for Langley who were selling to eliminate their competitors. That's the war on terrorism. Okay, I'm not in favor of this war. I'm a
Good.
patriot, and I don't like the infiltration of Iranian cells in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like a lot of things, but I don't like blowing up girls' schools either.
Yeah. I think the majority of Americans would agree with that.
Um, I want to get away from the let's just call it the psychosis of war. I don't want to focus on that. What I would prefer to do is to focus on. I like taking notes. I'm just jotting down what day it is today.
Oh yeah.
I would like to focus on the consequences of war
Hmm.
to begin with. I don't know war. You wanted to talk about the war. We've got to cover it because it is. Whew, it's so entangled. Um, you don't just have we're gonna have a war over there, and it'll be okay, and 20 minutes, everything will be fine. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Did you know the Civil War was expected in 1860? What was it, 65, 62? It was expected to be a 3-month war. We're gonna, drive those rebels into the ground, and everything's gonna be great. Okay, it's never short. The Vietnam War was supposed to be like 6 to 12 months, and we'll fix things, and everything will be fine. The trouble is that too many corporations make a lot of money with war.
Hmm.
The trouble is that there's a lot of aggression, and they're targeted. They're targets that are created, and it's a great opportunity to vanquish and eliminate the target. Let's do it. Let's do it. Um, what I like to focus on, Bree, is the consequences of war. This war, not just war. This war. Um, what it's going to result in. Let me try to back off a little bit on the confidence that I have for various expectations and forecasts. Let me just say that we're on a path that leads to dangerous places. Will we avoid the dangerous destinations? I can't. I'm sorry. These are a little annoying, but I can't read very well. And if I have you out of focus, I'm very unhappy. uh, okay, war brings about consequences. When you hit an Islamic nation, it's a little different. When you hit a nation that's predominantly Shiite, it's very different. I don't know. I'm not an expert in religion, but I don't know any religion that has made a greater ritual out of vengeance than the Shiite sect of Islam. If we decapitated their top level of government. And, it just wasn't Khamenei. It was about 30 of his top officials. Okay, I got to explain something that I learned. And just keep in mind that I'm not in the military loop. I get drips. I get little pieces of intel from the Florida wingman, and so far not from the other email intel. But the Iranian leaders had been conditioned. They noticed that in the last 3 attacks on Iran, they came in the middle of the night. So they expected the next one to be in the middle of the night, and it came instead at 8:30 in the morning. All right. I got to mention something that Scott Ritter has explained very well, and that is Pete Hegseth, who I respect as a defense secretary. Now we call it the war secretary. We're not beating around the bush anymore. It's the Secretary of War. It's the War Department, because we're at war every year. Every year we have a war. Pete Hegseth eliminated a certain level of verification of targets. He eliminated it in March of last year. And what it did was to do a double check to make sure that a target was not civilian. And the little girl's school used to be a missile site in the headquarters. And the U.S. military knew that it no longer was, like several months ago. They upgraded for, monitoring the Hormuz Straits. And Hegseth removed that layer of verification of targets. Rather talk about the economic and financial consequences.
The effect it's going to have on America, obviously, with oil prices, with the Strait. Are we actually putting China in check? There's so many questions.
Well, let me get to a couple of really critical points that are very interesting. And that is, Iran has said if a ship and its cargo are going to be paid, the final payment settlement, if it's going to be in Chinese currency, they can pass through the Hormuz Strait.
I have heard that too.
That is very interesting. At the same time, Trump and Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, have announced that ships seeking a destination, like to China, they will be permitted to go and deliver their oil on the oil tanker, because that will bring down the price of oil, because it'll increase the supply. So they're going to unsanction certain Iranian oil tankers, which is interesting. Okay, drive down the price. There's another very interesting point that Lloyd's of London seems to be out of the room when it comes to insuring the ships. But let me get to my view and my forecasts. I want to be careful with the word forecasts.
Okay.
Let's just say they're my expectations to monitor. They might not happen, but I think they will, and they've already started.
Okay.
I don't want them to happen, because I'm a patriot of the United States. I'm back in the United States. I love my country. And in the Olympics, I always pull for our athletes, except for the people in the women's competition who have testicles. Sorry, I've been saying now for 3 weeks to my colleagues and my buddies, the U.S. military is at a high risk now of being disinvited from the entire Gulf region. This is not in the news. There's no news that U.S. military might be expelled from the Prince Sultan Air Base of Saudi Arabia. That's not in the news. But in the UAE, the Emirates just told the Americans, you got to get out of our port. UAE Emirates said that regarding Dubai. What I find funny is that most Americans probably could not identify Saudi Arabia on a map. They certainly couldn't identify Ukraine, and they've never been able to identify Vietnam. I missed Vietnam by that much. I was 19.
Okay.
Um, Notice that Iran is blowing up various energy facilities
Mm-hmm.
in the Gulf region.
Yep.
They've blown up in Bahrain. They've blown up in the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
There were some events, I believe, in Qatar. Um, Iran has let it be known that any Gulf monarchy that has U.S. military on their soil, that has military strikes, whether they're missiles or whatever, airborne, Air Force, or whether their airspace is used. That's a big issue, airspace. Can you go over Oman to hit Iran? Wait a minute. You need permission from Oman. Okay. They're not getting that uniformly. They're not. So therefore, Iran is declaring that all energy facilities for, let's just call them nations because they're monarchies, for any nation that hosts U.S. military, that engages in strikes, all those energy facilities are military targets. So that's
Wow.
why they're hitting them.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the output is down about 40 or 50%. I'm going to get specifics because I started a few days ago the report for March
Mm-hmm.
from the newsletter. And this is going to be a tough one because in February, we were just, beginning things. And I left that entire topic alone in the February
Okay.
newsletter.
Yeah, just to see what plays out.
Oh, yeah, to see how it erupts, to see how it gets out of control, to see how the retaliation comes. There is so much going on that is not being discussed.
Yeah.
I believe the United States is trying to coerce the monarchies to support the war more,
Mm-hmm.
but the monarchies are saying, is this to eradicate terrorism globally? Is this about to liberate the Gulf of Hormuz? Or is this to protect the little country in the north from Iranian nuclear attack?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to just say something, Bree, and I have no doubts at all of what I'm saying. This war has very little to do with nuclear anything. The nuclear deal, the Iran nuclear deal, what was it? I think 2014, correct me if I'm wrong. The Iran nuclear deal that Obama signed, I believe that had very little to do with nuclear anything and had a lot to do with narcotics
Mm.
and had a lot to do with payoffs, I believe, to hide stolen gold.
Interesting.
Obama and Hillary, this is what my intel is telling me. Obama and Hillary stole $100 billion worth of gold. But I don't know exactly where they stole it. Might have been West Point. Okay, let's face it, Fort Knox has been empty for 25 years. Okay? They didn't steal anything from Fort Knox. I heard a long time ago when I started the newsletter, it was about 04, 05, right around there. I heard that Fort Knox was a warehouse for nerve gas. Okay, very interesting, nerve gas. So a year ago now, we were talking about an audit of Fort Knox, and it never happened. I think because their preliminary audit showed that there was no gold in Fort Knox. And the gold that they did find, they were tungsten bars with gold plating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think the gold that Obama and Hillary stole and stored in Iran with a fee of $5 billion in cash, I think that was a service payment. I think it came from the New York Fed. Might have come from West Point. Okay, the three locations: Fort Knox, West Point, New York Fed. That's where our gold is held. Whew. Okay, let's get back to the consequences. What's coming next, in my opinion, and we've already seen it with Saudi Arabia, they're going to pull back from U.S. Treasury bond demand and support.
Yeah.
Saudis have already announced that. And they're not really getting a big argument from the United States because I think the Exchange Stabilization Fund is a gigantic hoover for that. Oh gosh, the Exchange Stabilization Fund is something that I don't think even 2% of Americans know exists. And those who do know that it exists are usually very careful when they talk about it because it's a high security tool. It's a vault. It's a fund. Rob Kirby and I had an interesting discussion a year before he was murdered. Rob Kirby was a colleague of mine. He was in my group. He's he was a Toronto-based bank analyst. And I said, Rob, I think they got probably $5-8 trillion sitting in the ESF. And he said, no, Jim, it's more like 15 or 20. And they use it with leverage to buy whatever is needed. And I go, wow, that's double what I thought, Rob. Are you certain? He said, I'm pretty sure about it. Yeah. Well, that topic is what got Rob Kirby murdered. So let me just say that the ESF uses its collateral with Treasury bonds to borrow money and buy other Treasury bonds that are being dumped. So if the Gulf Arabs are going to dump tens of billions of dollars worth of Treasury bonds, I think the ESF will soak it up using leverage against what they're already holding. But I believe very firmly that their holdings are down $2 or $3 trillion in the last 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 trillion in the last 2 or 3 years. The BRICS are dumping treasuries. The BRICS. And I don't want to get into a discussion. Ooh, it's very gnarly and difficult regarding USD tether.
Yes. We
Okay.
don't have to touch on it. I mean, I talk about tether a lot on here, so if you don't want to discuss it, we don't have to, but it's a pretty interesting rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole, but there's very little definitive confirmed information about it. And therefore, Bree, I believe it's connected at the hip with the ESF.
Yeah, I think it's very plausible.
Let's just say Oman or Qatar. If Qatar wants to dump $10 billion tomorrow morning of Treasury bonds, how do they do it? What do they receive for it? I'm told, and it's hard to get anything confirmed. I don't think they're getting cash. I think they're getting tether. So where does the tether come from? Are you aware? You probably know this better than I do because you study it, but tether does not have any kind of an audit ever.
Yeah, never.
Okay. So we don't know where their coins come from. I tell people do a chart on USD tether if you want to have some amusement because it's 99.9 to 100.1. Okay, I did one yesterday. I did just for shits and giggles. Okay, where does the tether come from that was given in 10 billion volume to Qatar? Therefore, I think it comes from the ESF. Okay, I do inferences like that. I make little conclusions and say that's what I think.
Yeah,
and let's leave this on the wall pending further verification.
Yeah. And then even Tether's connections to Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald's, you can go down an entire rabbit hole. I had Aaron Day on my show recently, and he did a deep dive into that. It's very interesting.
Cantor Fitzgerald, Building 7.
Yeah, it's like it's all intertwined, and even to Bitcoin and the pilot CBDC programs, it's all connected.
Well, I'm of the opinion that the tether has a basis in the printing press and Bitcoin in the connection, in the mix, the mix. And that could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin is going down. It's getting outed as being involved as a backing for Tether. Okay, if Tether was strong, if Tether had a good Bitcoin backing, and Tether was well respected, why wouldn't Bitcoin be going up? Okay, nothing is simple with Bitcoin. But let me get back
Yeah.
to the consequences of this war. We've got higher oil prices. I mean, they're not just a little bit higher. I'm noticing that they're like 80 cents higher around where I am. Um, a lot of people are complaining. Now, I'm an economist. Okay, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I don't have a degree in economics. I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't have a degree in finance. I have a degree in statistics.
Hmm.
So what I'd like to say, I had to come up with a bio in my first year. I said, I have a doctorate in statistics and I practice economics and I'm unencumbered by the limitations of economics credentials. Because if you've got an Ivy League doctorate in economics, you're a dumb fuck. Okay? If you have a doctorate in economics from the University of Chicago, you're a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
If you have a
You probably have
doctorate in,
a very, very messed up view of how things actually work.
well, they're all Keynesians.
Yeah, of course. None of them are Austrians.
None are Austrians, right? I believe the debt. Remember, with Baby Bush, it doubled. With Obama, it doubled the debt, U.S. government debt.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the combination of Trump and the dead man who went by the name of Biden, the dead man, who sat at the White House, the guy who had the funeral for Inauguration Day with the 7-gun salute, that dead man. Okay, with Trump and the dead man Biden, it doubled again. Okay, so it doubled, then doubled, then doubled. That's eightfold. Okay, so somewhere around 3 trillion was the debt when I was talking with the doofus who had a doctorate from Cornell in economics, who told me that no amount of debt would ever be a problem.
Yeah, he
Would
probably
never
loves Tether. He probably loves Tether now.
could be.
Debt is at historic highs, geopolitical tensions are rising, and central banks are quietly accumulating gold, the most they've ever accumulated in the century. Historically, when headlines are quiet around certain assets, that's when strong long term positions are built. Are you ready for what is about to happen? Because right now, many people are just listening to what Wall Street is marketing. However, I use iTrust Capital, and with iTrust Capital, I'm able to buy physical gold and physical silver, many cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, all inside a tax advantaged IRA or within a taxable account. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for self custody. But during these uncertain times, I do believe it is very important to be able to have the ability to cash out quickly and effortlessly without having to find a dealer that's going to give you the best rates. And that's why I truly believe in iTrust Capital. If you sign up using the link down below, you'll get a $100 funding bonus. Take charge of your financial future with iTrust Capital.
When we were done, I said, well, thank you, Ron. This has been really instructive for me. And he said, well, I'm glad you learned a few things. And I said, what I learned is that a doctorate from an Ivy League school doesn't teach you shit about debt. And he said, excuse me? And I said, well, remember this conversation in 5, 10 years from now when the debt is unmanageable for the U.S. government. And he said, oh, it'll never be unmanageable. And where I left out, where I screwed up, Bree, I screwed up. I should have said there will come a day when the interest on the debt is bigger than the military budget.
You should
I
have, and then you
didn't.
would have been getting an apology letter.
Well, in 2009, I said, okay, years later, 5 years later, 4 years later, I made a forecast that in 2009, this is post Lehman, which I gave a 1-year advance notice on, 1 year. It was from the credit default swap. I said in 2009, we're going to have $1 trillion annual deficits for as far as the eye can see.
Mm-hmm.
And by 2020, give or take, we're going to have a government debt default.
Wow.
Now, do you think Do you think we've had a debt default? This is a tough question, and it's a bit of a trick question. Do you think we've had a U.S. government debt default?
Yes.
I do. I think it's coming in. It has arrived in stages.
Mhm.
I think the Ukraine war was evidence of a default. We needed a distraction for the default. There's something very subtle. You may have heard this in the last few months. This started about 3 years ago. The U.S. sends out oil tankers, and one might go to, say, Korea,
Mhm.
okay, South Korea, and it's credits. The oil tanker is credits for their shipments of containers from South Korea. We're paying at the port. We're paying for shipments into the port with container vessels. We're paying them with oil tankers. We're getting credits for exported oil tankers. Wow. We're not paying in treasury bills. Why? Because we
Because
had
one.
a default.
Okay.
Okay. There's you can't make a five-sided argument, but you can make two or three. Um okay. I could
So
I
are
could
we
say
seeing
more.
are we seeing this again now with, the war we've entered into in Iran?
I think so. I think we're having a lot of trouble in having our treasury bills honored.
Mhm.
We're seeing Saudi saying we don't want to purchase. When they say they don't want to purchase treasury bonds, what they're really saying is we're selling them in high volume. They don't want to say that. Oh, no, 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 no. So you got to take two and add it together. And what do you get? Okay, an economist would say, well, it could be five, could be four, depends on your agenda. Okay, that's the economist. Harry Truman used to say, I just don't like these economists coming in. They all have one arm. What do you mean, Harry? Harry Truman. Well, on the one hand, that's how economists talk. On the one hand, okay, one-armed economists. Well, on the other hand, okay, on this version of reality, you have this. On this version of reality, you have that. In other words, they're not dealing in reality. They don't know what reality is. Reality is, what's your agenda?
Yeah. So
Uh,
what is America's agenda right now?
well, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of unanswered um, suppositions and suspicions regarding this war. Let me just say, this Iran war is about gold that
Mhm.
Hillary and Obama stole. It could be worth, I think it's worth close to $1 trillion. No, maybe $500 billion now. Okay, back then gold was worth about $1,400 an ounce. Now it's about four times. I'm just in rough terms. If,
Yeah.
if it was $100 billion worth of gold that Hillary and Obama stole back then, it's worth about $500 billion right now. Okay, notice that Trump is talking about the tunnels in Iran. We're going to hit the tunnels.
Mhm.
And everybody's thinking, well, that's where their nuclear refined material is. That's where their centrifuges are. That's where their drone rollout is. That's where the gold is.
Interesting. I
Okay,
mean, it
so
kind of makes sense even with what we were doing in Venezuela. I read recently that we've brokered some deal to be like, sent a bunch of gold from Venezuela and maybe be, like, refining it. Have you heard that as well?
and silver, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
more
now
silver than
America's
gold.
and now, like, also our biggest export is gold for the past few months.
Well, you know, again, we've got a government debt default. They don't want treasury bills. They'd rather gold.
Mhm.
Okay, we're shedding our gold right now, and a lot of people are not noticing that the motive behind it, not the motive, but the reason behind it is that they don't want our treasury bills anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get to a conclusion shortly here, but I want to get back to the consequences.
Yeah, consequences of war.
The oil price is going up.
Yeah.
And Trump can, free up Iran sanctioned oil tankers and increase the supply, but I don't think that's going to bring it below 90 to 92 on the
How
crude oil price.
how high can it get by the end of the month?
I don't know if there are more installations in the Gulf monarchies that are blown
Mhm.
up. This thing could get to 120 or more. I don't know. It depends on what happens. It depends on whether some gambits. Okay, Iran is putting forth ideas on the table, and one of them is more wide usage of the Chinese yuan for
Yeah.
oil payments. Now that could fly very nicely with Saudi, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain. Okay, I got to do a little sideline. I did a consult call 3 years ago with a guy named Ahmad. Okay, Ahmad was from Oman,
Okay.
and he was British educated, and his English was perfect. And he said, Jim, I'm fluent in Arabic, and I'm fluent in English. And he told me, um, I do business in Oman. I have a lot of clients in UAE, but I go to Bahrain for fun. And I said, this is a really good opportunity, Ahmad. He was telling me about how XRP was used all over the place,
Oh, yeah.
all over the place in the Gulf region, all over the place. He said, every low level uses it. Electric bill, water bill. What's
I've heard
another one?
I've heard that as well. Verson talks about that a lot because I know, he was saying that his family
Yeah.
has
And,
talks a
and
lot about using it in that region.
this was 2022 and 3, right around there. And he said it's now being used more by contractors. I said, you mean like a cement contractor in a construction site? He said, yeah, lumber, cement, electrician, glass,
Mhm.
furniture. Okay, but here's what he said. I said, Ahmad, this is my opportunity. Tell me the differences of one monarchy to the other. And he said, oh, I hate going to Saudi Arabia. There's no fun. It's outlawed. You can't have fun. I said, it's outlawed. So no drinking and no discotheques. And he said, and no gambling and no women at the beaches and no this and no that. And I said, okay, what about UAE? And he said, that's kind of like Saudi light. They have women beaches and the men can't go there. They have some discotheques, but it's only for the royals. And he said, Oman is opening up, but if you want to have fun, you go to Bahrain. He said they got gambling, they got bikinis at the beach, they got drinking, they got alcohol, they got gambling, they got
I
oh,
know there's some golf tournaments there. I've been invited to Bahrain for a golf tournament before. I did decline though. Maybe I should have gone.
you might have been abducted.
Yeah, that's kinda I get a little bit weary of that.
Okay, let's get back to
Oh, yeah, we
the
gotta
the
focus. Focus,
I
focus,
know
focus.
I have trouble focusing sometimes because I have too much fun. Um,
That's why
okay,
you wanna go to Bahrain.
I don't want to go to Bahrain. No, it's not. He said to me, Jimmy, it's not Bahrain. It's Bahrain. Bahrain. Okay. Bahrain with a little spray on the panel. Um, we're
Okay,
going to get to a point where the Treasury bill is not desired,
I
and
think
it's
we
not going
already
to
to that point, right?
not just by our enemy states. It's going to be our allies, like the Gulf Arabs.
Yeah.
They're not going to want Treasury bills for exported oil or LNG. I sure hope that, the triple dome ships for LNG,
Yeah.
I sure hope one of them doesn't get hit. Do you
Why?
know what would happen if one got hit by a missile?
What?
It would be a 5-mile high fireball, and the nearby city would be eradicated. It'd be
Oh,
like a
no.
nuclear event. Okay, we don't want that. Okay, these Satanists, they want war. Okay,
Yeah.
I we're going to get to a point where our allies next won't want the Treasury bill.
Okay.
Okay, we're already at the point where the Eastern nations, the BRICS nations, they're demanding a recompense. They're demanding liquidation. They want something for their Treasury bonds, and I think they're getting a portion in return with gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the exact, but I'm guessing maybe 10% is coming in
Could
gold. I don't know.
could could we see gold being revalued?
We could, but I want to finish this point. You
Okay,
want me to
sorry.
focus? Well, I'm going to focus.
Sorry, sorry.
Okay. When our allies are starting to dislike and distrust our Treasury bill, for what? Trade payment. Trade payment. And our enemies are dumping treasuries to get gold, or they're getting Tether and they're immediately converting Tether to Bitcoin. And I think with Bitcoin down, it means they're not doing it that much anymore. That phase is done. That could have been a big part of how it got to 100,000. And now the BRICS are not converting Tether to Bitcoin. It could have something to do with the underground activity in Ukraine also, which I don't want to discuss. We're getting to a point where our best allies and our lukewarm allies and our enemies, none of them want Treasury bills anymore. What is going to happen? Okay, here's how it's been laid out to me. It doesn't matter who they are, whether it's lukewarm ally, enemy, or strong ally like Japan. We're alienating Japan.
Yeah.
They're going to demand a neutral asset. Okay,
Oh.
keyword, neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is a Treasury bill neutral? No.
No.
Is gold neutral? Very much. But very few. Okay, do you know Gresham's law? Have you heard this one?
Yeah.
Okay, it means that gold is the last one to come out. Gold is the last one to enter in a transaction. Gold will be held in the warehouse. It won't come out of there until it has to, because everything else, all the garbage currency instruments, they'll come out first. Okay, but there's a neutral bridge asset that is of digital type, and it's called XRP. And this is, Bria, I think this is how it's going to happen. The Treasury bill is not going to be wanted. It's going to be shunned. The Gulf Arabs are going to win favor with Iran by not taking the Treasury bill. Iran might say, right now they're saying Chinese yuan for oil tanker payments. What if in 2 weeks they say, but also XRP? Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Japan and Korea are going to lead this show. Americans are so behind now in digital finance. I mean, the American government, the rule makers, the regulators. Okay, we just had another decision where Ripple's XRP was deemed a commodity, and this is a very important.
Same as a lot of other major cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, but that means that the Caroline fam and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission will be making the rules, which means they're going to be in the room for the Clarity Act.
Yeah.
Which means we're going to get some progress. Okay, we're inching along with progress. If you've got a country like Pakistan or Korea or UAE, and they say, we want payment for our shipment, and we want it to be neutral. So Pakistan, UAE, and Korea might all say, XRP, that works for us.
Yeah.
Can you imagine all the Hyundai, Samsung, and LG exports from Korea all being paid in XRP? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you're aware about SBI Holdings in Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, they're like the big facilitator, the service provider for tokenization, for getting your what do you call it, your ledgers working, getting all the rails connected to the financial firms. Japan is the third biggest economy in the world. in our world. I love that. In our world. Well, there are other world. Oh, there are other worlds. Um, I think we're going to get a credit crisis. I think the treasuries are going to enter a crisis really soon when the Exchange Stabilization Fund can't handle it anymore, when Tether starts to be discredited and not wanted, when countries like Qatar and Oman say, yeah, we want to sell a bunch of treasuries, but we don't want Tether.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Yeah.
Then the US
So,
government
do you
starts
think
talking about XRP.
do you think Trump is aware of this, or do you think he's just being misguided?
I think he knows full well about XRP. Okay, I believe that the Trump boys talk Bitcoin and buy XRP. If they're
Yeah.
wondering who's doing the massive accumulation, it's Wall Street and the Trump family and
Yeah, I think
BlackRock.
they're definitely aware of XRP. Like, actually, so, I've met President Trump quite a few times, especially, I would say, like, after the 2020 election, because I play golf on his golf courses very often in Florida, and I actually have had conversations with him about XRP. I asked him if he knew about it, and he was totally aware, and this was probably back in 2021, so he's been aware of it for a long time.
Does he know about its advantages as a neutral bridge asset?
I told him
I,
about that, so I don't know if, he necessarily agreed. He was super polite about it, but it's kinda hard to gauge where he was at, but he was definitely aware of
he's
XRP
very
and what it
cautious with
was.
his words.
Yeah, and I'm
I
also
think
I'm
he's
like a
aware
random
a
Joe.
little bit about the neutral bridge asset, but he probably does not anticipate a treasury bond crisis.
Okay.
That's so
Why do you
therefore he probably wouldn't think the neutral bridge asset would be all that important.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
that's my logic.
So I do actually I have a question going back to the Strait of Hormuz, and I really think we should talk about a little bit about the history of this because it's actually quite alarming how the average American is very unaware of the strait. Like, I was having a conversation with a young man the other day, and he had no idea. I've heard some news. Actually, David Wu, the economist, was talking about how there are quite a few Chinese tankers that are in the strait. I know we've talked about China still getting oil from Iran. I think they get about 20% of their oil from Iran, if I'm correct. David Wu was talking about how China has actually been able to get oil from Iran recently, and I read also it was like 16 million barrels have gone through the straits since the beginning of March.
Well, I don't have, honestly, I don't have any
Okay.
direct information on that, but remember that Iran has a border that goes, that's outside of the Hormuz. Um, Iran's a big country. It goes all the way
Yeah.
around. Um, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that if Iran is doing most of the attacking, that they would allow, especially in the night,
Yeah.
um, allow a tanker to move through. Um, when Trump said that he was going to have military naval escorts for American tankers, that brought about giggles with me.
Yeah.
Giggles. Are you kidding, Don? Don, do you know what a hypersonic missile is?
Yeah.
Did you read up on that, Don?
And them using Chinese technology now. I've heard that as well.
It could be. Let's get to the economic. I've talked
Yeah.
about the Treasury bonds a good deal, and I've
Yeah. Yeah.
avoided the economic. When the oil price goes up, there's three. Let's see if I can remember them. There's three major components to an economy with respect to cost. The cost of oil,
Yeah.
the cost of money, and I think it's. I'm not sure, but I think it's a cost of insurance.
Okay.
Just, life insurance,
Yeah.
business insurance, car insurance, home insurance, um, workman's compensation insurance. Okay. The oil price is, I think, the biggest because look at just travel down the highway. How many trucks do you see that are carrying cargo on a trailer? Uh, the distribution system in the United States is not rail, it's truck. Um, and unfortunately, for the last few years, it's been unprofitable for trucking. Unprofitable. I have a client in the Southwest who gave me a detailed report. And he said, I'm losing a penny point two per mile. Okay. I
Wow.
said, how are you staying in
I see
business? He
that,
said,
yeah.
if it doesn't change in the next 9 months, I'll be out of business.
So
Okay.
basically, he's gonna be out of business.
I think he's going to be under a great threat because in the last year or so, he's reported a decline in the costs and an increase in his profit margin. And it's how much does it cost per mile? Do you make money per mile or do you lose money per mile? Okay. This filters down the entire distribution chain. Okay, look at Walmart, look at Target, look at Home Depot. They're all supplied by trucks.
Mhm.
Okay,
Everything.
look at every major retail. It's supplied by trucks.
Famine.
Pardon me?
Could lead to a famine even with food supply. Like,
Oh,
that's
famine.
scary.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It could. It could. I think we're going to see a staggering jolt in food prices.
Yeah.
Um, and we could also see it in electricity prices.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to see. Okay, this is my call. This is my formal call. We're going to see an economic recession that's admitted. Okay, there's a key word in there: an admitted economic recession. Okay, that's a key word in there. Right now, they're lying through their teeth about price inflation. It's about 7 or 8%. 7 or 8%. They're saying it's 2.5. They're
Mhm.
lying by 4%, maybe 5%. They're saying that we're in a slow growth economy, a stagnant growth economy of like plus 1%, give or take, whatever nonsense
Mhm.
and tomfoolery and bullshit they promote. Okay. If they got a 1% economic growth and we're lying by 4, we got a minus 3%. That's a depression. I think we've been
Yeah.
in Bree. I think we've been in a depression for 12 years.
I think so too. My whole
Okay,
adult life, it feels like we're in a depression, and also just like when oil prices increase, that leads to recession. So are we gonna enter into an even bigger recession
worse.
than we already
It,
are? It's really alarming. I even saw, so like my last name is Teresi, and there's a big trucking company in Northern California called Teresi Trucking, and they're closing. They're going out of business. So it makes sense to with what you were saying.
we're in an inflationary depression,
Yeah.
and we're stuck in it. It was minus 12% during the lockdown.
Wow.
Minus 12%. Okay, we're going to get an admitted recession. This is a key point. I didn't want any blur when I look at you. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. um,
Howdy.
if we admit to a recession, we're going to need to blame somebody, and we're going to blame Iran. Okay, this
Yeah.
war can have the Treasury bond crisis blamed on Iran. It can have the recession in the United States blamed on Iran. And what's really going on is that we're after the gold that Hillary stole. We're after the gold. It's not a small amount of gold. Um, okay, back to the recession. If we have a recession, Donald will have more justification for a rate cut.
Is that possible though, right now with oil prices? Could we do a rate cut? Could the Fed do that?
I okay, remember the economists have one arm?
Yeah,
Well, on
yeah.
the one hand, we've got a recession and we need to lower the interest rates. On the other hand, we've got price inflation and we can't. Okay, what's going to prevail? I think we're going to get rate cuts because this is not going to end up well. I think we're going to get a rate cut, and I'm not certain about it. I just think we are.
Okay.
I think the economic depression, recession will be emphasized, and they'll continue to lie about the inflation. They'll say we've got the oil price under control. They've already started. We've got the oil price under control. We've got that. We're going to increase the supply. We're tapping the oil reserve. Remember that? The Strategic Petroleum
Yeah.
Reserve?
Yeah, that we don't have any oil in. It's empty.
Yeah, that one. We're tapping that. So we're bringing supply to the market. Okay. there's okay, you're dealing with reality, and you got to be careful that the government doesn't.
Oh, sorry.
The government is saying we're going to tap the oil reserve,
With the
and
magic
and
wand.
and we're going well, yeah, I guess, but they're also going to increase supply by unsanctioning Iranian ships. The important thing, they're going to say we've got the oil price under control, and you know what? They're going to bring out naked shorting, and they're going to do what they did to gold. They're going to do it to oil. They're going to bring
Okay.
down the oil price. They're going to say, Wall Street, work your magic. That's it's coming. It's already started. They had a day when the oil price went down about $20. Did you notice that? That was really important.
I didn't. I should be paying attention to that, but
Well, it
I
went right
didn't.
back up.
Okay.
It's because the tangible market rules. I could tell you about the tangible market in Shanghai regarding silver, but we're
Yeah.
really not. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin here. Um, I tell you, these are very exciting times, and there's a lot of room for error. But you've got to be careful about what the government claims in order to support a policy initiative.
Hmm.
Okay, it was 2 days ago or yesterday. Trump was all over Powell's case. He wants to throw him in jail. He wants to claim that he's a traitor. He's going beyond you're a nincompoop. He's going beyond you're an idiot. He's going beyond that. He's saying you're not serving the American people. He's working toward treason. Treason because you're not cutting rates. Ooh, cutting rates is going to be really interesting because it'll put a little boost on the gold and silver price. It'll increase inflation a little bit. He doesn't want a recession.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't blame him.
Well, neither do I, but we've already got it, and it's going to get
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And I notice it from clients. They say, Jim, I'm getting overwhelmed by costs. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, and the average American has no extra income. They can they're probably running on credit right now, so it's not like they can be buying hard assets.
They can't. They're selling silver now.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's the unfortunately the position we're in though, and we have to deal with it.
I talked with a guy. This is about 6 months ago, and we were moving from $30 to $40 in silver back then, right around then. And he said, Jim, I got some experience at a coin dealer. And I said, are they out of supply? And he said, no, they're getting supply from 30 people in line. They're all selling.
Yeah,
I said, recession? He said, yeah, people don't have any money.
and
They're
way under
selling.
spot.
Yeah, that was the other thing that he complained about. And he said the silver dealers actually have some, you know what a silver round is?
No, what's
Um,
that?
um, it's just an ounce. It
Oh,
says
okay.
1 ounce, and it might have a name like Sunshine on it. Sunshine
Okay,
is the
yeah, yeah.
most popular silver round. The dealers that's all they're getting.
Interesting.
Um, and it's really quite interesting. I probably should not open up the silver can of worms.
Okay. Yeah,
Right now, I'm concerned about how they're going to try to resolve this war. I mean, bring
yeah.
it to an end. Have they been able to bring an end to the Ukraine war?
No, no. I mean, he's come out and said, basically we're winning, we're gonna leave soon. Are we winning? There's just
Oh,
there's
NATO is getting
so
the
many
shit
things.
kicked out of them.
And then also I'm hearing possibilities, like I think this sounds ridiculous, but possibilities of creating a new canal so that we don't have to use the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, that seems like that would take a long time to do and very costly. Obviously, you would need like
I
24/7 military there.
I don't even want to entertain that
Okay.
notion. Multiple years. The Saudis have built a pipeline. It goes straight across the heart of Saudi Arabia. Interrupting that pipeline would be so easy. Okay, there's another issue regarding the war, and that is Trump is trying to enlist the help of Spain, Italy, and Germany uh, for the war. That they've refused NATO minesweepers, which I find interesting. Does that mean the U.S. military doesn't have any minesweepers? We need NATO to supply them? No, we've got
Yeah.
minesweepers. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, this is a ruse. Trump is trying to set up NATO so that they are accused of being uncooperative, and therefore they're not pro-American. Well, I've known NATO is not pro-American for 20 years. They're pro-narco.
NATO narco.
It, it's not a narco nation. It's a narco concept. It's a business
Yeah.
underworld. Okay. I think Trump is going to use this war to try to dissolve NATO.
Okay.
Remember a campaign promise? He said, we're going to require the Germans, the French, and the Italians to pay more for the NATO budget, the NATO funding. And then he backed out of that. I thought that was a bad move, backing out of that.
Okay.
I wanted him to follow through on that. But, you know, when it comes to Trump and war, he's got some guys in the room who are executives at McDonnell Douglas and Raytheon, and they make decisions
Yeah, people profiting majorly.
majorly. So instead of limiting NATO and dissolving it, he rearmed them. Okay.
And then
War is
what?
big business. And, you know, as I said, I missed Vietnam by that much. You don't remember the draft lottery in
No,
1970. You don't remember.
no, I was not born for many years.
I was 18
Okay.
and I got a Pennsylvania draft lottery number. No, I got a U.S. military draft lottery number of 216. And Pennsylvania didn't get that high. I let go my draft, what do you call it? Deferment. I gave up my 1S. And I said, draft me if you get that far. Draft me if you can get that far. And they didn't get that far. So that meant I was clean until I was 26.
Okay.
And now I'm a little more than 26.
No.
Yeah, I turned 32 last week.
Oh, happy birthday.
No, okay. Trump is using this Iran war for many purposes. He's giving hints that it's about gold. He's mentioned the Iran nuclear deal a few times. Do you remember way back? Oh gosh, what was it? I think it was 2017. He called the Iran nuclear deal one of the scummiest deals he's ever seen.
Wow.
We gave $5 billion in cash. We had agreements that Iran would not be engaged in nuclear refinement toward, weaponry and other concessions. I think he was on orders. You can't talk about the gold that Hillary stole. You can't do that. You can't talk about gold. Okay, it's not just gold. It's Epstein. Okay, there's Epstein files in Iran. I mean, there's a lot going on in
Yeah, of course.
Iran. And the Iran nuclear deal had almost nothing to do with nuclear. Okay. He's using this as leverage with respect to the Allies. He's using it as leverage with respect to London, the city of London.
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up.
Okay, there's more, and I'm leaving the best to last. And I often deal with off the top of my head.
I love that. It's natural.
Well, I mean, I forget things sometimes. Okay, this is not well known, but a year ago, there was a lot of talk about the tariffs and a lot of export of gold and silver from London. It came to the United States, and I reasoned that, we really haven't heard many power talks coming out of London. We've never heard of many big pronouncements coming out of London, big policy decisions coming out of London. We do out of Basel in Switzerland. And I developed like a theory. Oh my gosh, I'm beginning to think that London is losing its power. And then months later, I mean like November, December, I was hearing the city of London is relocating to Dubai. Dubai.
Shocker, shocker.
What is getting the shit kicked out of it right now? Dubai. They've shut down their gold market. They're asking for foreigners to repatriate, go home. They're closing down some of their energy facilities. The souks are empty. The U.S. is being told maybe it's a good idea you not do shore leave with your sailors, the Navy. You're not welcome in our ports. We're shutting down Dubai. Okay, well, and now I'm hearing my intel. This is really ripe, Bree. It looks like a hidden target for Trump is the city of London and their new roots in Dubai. This war has many sides.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why
um,
it's a lot more complicated than people are making it out to be.
and there are going to be consequences with the Treasury bonds. There are going to be consequences with the U.S. military. We haven't yet heard that the U.S. military is evacuating from Saudi Arabia. Instead, we're hearing the opposite. And I got to tell you, when I hear that the Saudis are reinforcing the U.S. military motives for the war, part of me is thinking that Saudi didn't write that. This is a very messy situation. And, there are a lot of things I don't have the answer for. And I have, my postulates that need to be verified
Yeah. No, of course.
or refuted. One or the other. Whew. I'm watching the price of oil. Here's something that's really quite interesting. Gold and silver, they're going down. Oil and gas, they're going up.
Yeah.
So the margin calls are coming for oil, and they're paying for them by liquidating their gold holdings.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense because I was kind of wondering why we're seeing not really much price action with gold like increasing in this time.
If it weren't for oil, we would.
Okay.
There's an old saying: in a time of crisis, you sell your most liquid asset.
Okay.
The gold market is very liquid, very
Yeah, of course.
huge. Um, I'd like to see an end to this war. My ears perk up when I hear that there are some talks and negotiations going on. It's kind of funny. Trump is asking for an unconditional surrender from Iran. And the reports that I hear is that life inside Iran has not really degraded. Their economy is moving along.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that instead, military operations in U.S. bases in the Gulf monarchies are interrupted. What I'm hearing is that, this is almost funny, except that it's not funny at all.
Yeah, of course.
The USS John Kennedy aircraft carrier, they were ready to do shore leave after 10 months. And then February came about and they were told no shore leave. Okay, these are sailors who've been on a ship, 2,000 sailors, some women, but mostly men. So what do? They're jamming mops down the toilets so that everything gets jammed and they can go to port. They're now starting fires on the USS Gerald Ford so they can go to port. They moved the John Kennedy 150 miles southeast of Riyadh to get out of the way because it's such a big, easy target. Wow. I mean, you could put three destroyers next to an aircraft carrier, and if your military analyst says that makes it safe and secure, you got a moron as your advisor.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got targets that were really, really powerful in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And drone technology and hypersonic missile technology has shown that
this is a completely different war now.
Not only different war, but they're useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're not even sure we've got Diego Garcia available much longer. Okay, the British looks like they sold that out to China. I got to verify some of these things.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think this war is going the way the Americans wanted.
yeah.
The
And I
Hexas shock and awe has come back to hit him in the face.
yeah.
Um,
Thank goodness he has good looks on his side.
well, I guess I don't pay attention to men's good. I'm not built that way.
Okay, sorry.
He let's just say he has nice haircut.
Yeah.
Always a good haircut, and I'm always jealous of good haircuts.
Hey,
Um,
you're a handsome guy. I've seen pictures when you were young. You were a hunk.
where'd you see a picture of me young? I don't have any out there.
You've sent me a picture.
I don't remember. I've got some pictures from the what do you call them? The Cambridge House, Cambridge House, 2007. Me on stage. Oh, it's on my website. It was. Uh, I got a picture of January 2007 when I first got to Costa Rica. Man, I looked different then. I got to say that I'm out of the danger zone.
Good, good,
I'm out of the fraud zone.
good,
I'm out of the demonic zone.
good.
Um, this is a funny comment to make, but I'll share with you. I don't feel like I'm in a home. Yeah, I got four walls, you know. I got a porch, I got a door. Yeah. I feel like I'm in a camp. I'm
Okay.
in a refuge camp. No, I'm kidding. I got an office.
Okay.
I got
Oh,
a
geez.
mess hall.
Good.
I got a bunk. I got a latrine. And I got a TV viewing room. I'm tired of being anxious and worried. And maybe that's just going to be the way it is for a few more years. Um, the newsletter is going strong.
Good.
I don't know if it's time for me to give credits here at golden-jackass.com. I want to say hi to MJ. Okay, I talked with MJ the other day, and you know, most people think it's, well, you talking about Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan? No, I'm talking about MJ, a really nice lady in Florida. Um,
Oh,
she's a real sweetheart. I talked with her 2 days ago. Did a consult call with her. MJ. I told her on my next show, I'm going to mention MJ, so pay attention.
shout out MJ. Hi, MJ.
She's a very nice lady and she helped me. Um,
Wonderful.
okay, I'm in the Southeast US and I really like Texas.
I'm curious of your opinion on who is supporting this war. What percent of the American population is in support of this war? How is it different than Iraq with support? Because I feel like more people have access to information now. People are more opinionated. We're seeing even Tucker being shamed and gone after because of his stance on this war. So basically, anyone who comes out that's a public figure against this war is ridiculed by almost like the Trump administration.
I read a poll that said between 75 and 80% of Americans are not in favor of this war.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse because of the prices that they say price at the pump, gasoline prices, diesel prices, and it's going to filter down into food prices. I think it's going to hit the retail market, you know, like retail department stores, whether it's Target, Home Depot, they're all affected. Um, I think this is going to turn out to be one of the most unpopular wars and moves that Trump has ever engaged in. Um, when you said who's in favor of the war, I thought you were talking about higher level, like what nations.
Yeah, even what nations? Because I mean, really, at the end of the day, who's even benefiting from this?
The the Gulf monarchies don't like this.
No.
They're getting their energy facilities wrecked, and Iran. Let me just say that Iran is doing 10% of what they could in wrecking the Gulf monarchy energy facilities. They could do a lot worse. They could really cause some tremendous disruption. Right now, what they're doing is they're focusing on the Hormuz Straits.
Yeah.
And it's important to just note it's 22 miles wide. It's not 200 yards wide. I talked with a couple clients and they said, Jim, is it true the Hormuz Strait is only like 200 to 500 meters wide? I said, no, it's 22 miles. Oh,
It just
there's a
looks really
lot of,
tiny on a map.
well, even on a map, it looks pretty tiny.
Yeah.
But if you see photos and you could see 10 ships and you don't see the land mass on the other side. I wouldn't be surprised if citizens in the little country to the north, if they hate the war, they're taking the brunt of this. They're taking missile shots. The Iron Dome is missing. Okay, there's something that I didn't want to touch on, but I have to. The U.S. military has exhausted their anti-missile arsenal. We've run out.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I think we've now shipped, if I read this correctly, about 15,000 Marines will now like be boots on the ground in about a week.
Yeah, after promises that there'll be no boots on the ground. Yeah. Remember, in war, the truth is a very early casualty, and so are promises made.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was somewhere around the second or third week of February that President Trump called in executives to the military contractors and told them we need to quadruple the output of anti-missile battery systems, THAAD, THAAD, THAAD.
Hmm.
Um, we need to increase our drone production. We need to increase our defenses. Um, I don't know why they don't use electromagnetic pulses to bring down a swarm. The trouble with an electronic, with an EMP, is that you turn off yourself. Okay, a ship could issue an EMP and stop a swarm, but it also renders impotent the entire ship. Okay, you can't direct an EMP. It's like a universal event that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not an expert in that, but that's one thing that was explained to me. Um, I think China likes this war.
Yeah.
Um, they've announced that they would not mind. Okay, they didn't come out and say we would love it. We would really, really like to see the yuan and RMB. No, that's a contradictory statement. They're not saying we want the yuan to be a global currency reserve and we're all in favor. They're saying, well, we wouldn't mind. Because that's a bit different. That's like saying I wouldn't mind going out with her on a date as opposed to I would love to go out on a date. Okay, that's very different. Twist my arm and I'll go out with her. I won't take her to a nice place though. Okay. The Chinese might get cheaper oil from the release of the sanctions on Iranian vessels heading to China. Okay.
Of course.
China, I don't think most Americans realize this, Bree, but a real big victim in the last 6 months has been Chinese economy in oil imports.
Okay.
All the Venezuelans stopped.
Hmm.
Where else did the Venezuelan oil stop? Cuba. I think Cuba is going to end their communist rule really soon
Yeah.
or face a revolution. I'm waiting to hear that the citizens have stormed the armory and made off with 10,000 rifles. That's what I'm waiting for. Okay, China is, I think, going to benefit from this war. Just becoming the reserve currency is not a positive thing.
No.
What it means is that France and England and Korea, they'll buy Chinese government debt.
And won't it affect manufacturing in China as well?
Well, yeah, the importing and the arrival of oil will help that a lot. they're in danger now. They've got a lot of Chinese industries that are idle. Um, okay, this is not well known, but the Chinese are running deficits now. And the United States wants their currency to go up, so their exports are more expensive, and they sell less abroad, and have less money coming in. That could be part of the reason why the Chinese yuan, the CHN, to be the reserve currency, that could be why they're in favor, because it would mean that more nations would buy their debt because they need to store up in yuan in order to pay for imports, whether they're oil or whatever. There's so much going on with this
Yeah.
Iran war, and
Yeah.
I don't think 3/4 of it is being properly reported.
Yeah, it's
And
a propaganda on both sides.
that's why I encourage people to buy my newsletter,
Yeah.
so they can get good intel and good information.
I'm looking
Um,
forward to your next newsletter.
I'm starting to notice that some of my military intel is a bit biased.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Of course they have an agenda.
I said to one fellow, this was a couple weeks ago, I was talking with one military type guy, and I said, "Do you expect that the Gulf Arabs are going to continue to buy Treasury bonds?" He said, "Oh, that won't stop. That won't stop."
Why? Why
Uh,
I mean, like, why would they?
I reminded him a week ago, I gave him a quick email and said, "The Saudis are pulling back on Treasury bonds,
Yeah.
just like I said they would."
Is there any way America could come out on top? Could we possibly get out in the next month?
I think it's going to be a trade off, Bree. Uh, we're going to rescue the gold, and we're going to harm the new routes of City of London in UAE, in Dubai. They call it DBX, Dubai. Um, I think we're going to have a victory in what we cannot publicize,
Okay, okay.
in the
And we'll
rescue of gold and the removal. No, let's just say the harm done to the new routes in Dubai for City of London. Okay,
okay.
you got some hints of that talking about Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's is
Yes, yes.
out of the insurance business, and Trump is talking about, what is it, the U.S. government insurance depository or something like that. I can't think of the name. Um, but that's what we can't talk about much.
Yeah.
But what we can talk about is price inflation, food price inflation, unemployment, at the same time that we're getting AI-based layoffs.
Oh, yeah, and a lot. A lot.
A lot. And they're being led by the Fang Mats, the Magnificent Seven. Okay, just remember, it's Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, hyphen, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla. They're doing most of the AI-based layoffs.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're the tech giants, but
And Wall Street. We saw a lot of jobs lost on Wall Street.
I don't think that's from AI as much as it is just the markets taking a crap.
Mm.
Do you see
I
AI
mean,
on
yeah,
Wall Street?
you would
AI
see,
trading?
yeah, you would see a lot of jobs replaced with AI, like, especially in trading.
Okay, AI trading is at Wall Street. Okay.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Huh. Well,
So you're saying
let's
that this is obviously gonna be very devastating and lead to, higher higher gas prices, inflation, recession, but at the same time, it will also benefit us with what we're doing in Dubai, trying to combat, I guess, the city of London.
this might be the death blow to Davos.
Okay.
The death blow to, okay, I've heard again from the military source, again. He said multiple trillions from the Rothschilds have been confiscated.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I want to talk to him next opportunity. Could it be that one consequence of capturing the gold in Iran, it's cabal gold?
Yeah.
It's Hillary and Obama theft. And these people still get respected by the Democrat clowns, Democrat voters. They're some of the dumbest people I've ever encountered in my life. And that includes my older brother, one of the dumbest people in my entire life. Okay.
Can you break down the city of London for us, just in simple terms so my audience really understands what we're up against?
Okay, it's called the Empire of Three Cities. It's the city of London. It's a square mile. It's a financial center, and it is not subject to British law. It is a sovereign nation. Okay, that's one. Okay, I'll circle back to it in a minute.
Okay.
The Vatican is another, I don't know, 2 square miles. They are not subject to law in Italy. They are a sovereign nation. Washington, D.C. Okay, this has changed until Trump hit the scene. It was, I think, 5 square miles, and it is not part of the United States. In fact, this is funny, to have a few representatives, maybe I think it's only one, maybe it's two, in the Congress from Washington, D.C. is improper because Washington, D.C. is not part of the United States. Okay. It's a sovereign nation. So, London, Washington, Vatican, 3 sovereign cities. They're called the Empire of Three Cities. That's the control center for the global powers, and they're not the good powers. I say they're 4. Basel, Switzerland is the 4th. It is not subject to law. It's not subject to Swiss law. Okay, I got a client. This happened about 3 years ago, Bria. It's just an interesting sideline. I got a client sign up, and it shows the flag, and I saw the Swiss flag, and I looked at this. Oh, I look at that. He's from Basel, Switzerland.
Sketchy.
So I wrote him and said, "What do you do? Are you working in the banking industry?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just an IT guy, IT service, IT support." He said, "Honestly, I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I know it's a fortress," he said. "I know it's powerful, but I'm just a little guy trying to learn more about gold because I can't learn anything from my company that's true." Ooh. Okay. So, Empire of 4 cities, I call it. 4. London, Washington, Vatican, and Basel. Okay. So what people need to know about London is that it is its own country. It is a gigantic control center. And for those who think the United States is a sovereign nation, you're not correct. I had something happen to me. One of my clients, it was sometime around 2021, I think it was during the lockdown. And the client said to me, "Jim, I got a very interesting story to tell you. There was a big battle regarding a commercial property in Wisconsin, and not a large commercial property like a warehouse. There was a big battle because there was an inheritance, and there was a dispute on who the heir was, and they were arguing over who had title for the warehouse. And on the title it said Wisconsin, British Crown."
Wow.
United States is part of the British Crown. No one argues that Canada is. Well, they call it a Commonwealth, part of the Five Eyes. Yeah. Canada is part of the British Commonwealth.
And then even a lot of the Caribbean too.
Oh yeah, Cayman and Bermuda. Those typically have a lot of trade. You see it, Bree.
St. Kitts too. I didn't know that until recently.
Oh, I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
You see it in Treasury bond purchases. So
Okay.
what, Cayman has multi-billion-dollar surpluses to justify Treasury bond purchases? No. Bank of England. By the way, the U.S. government credit default swap is rising.
I've been hearing about that too. Some videos on YouTube I've come across recently.
If a corporate bond has a credit default swap where they receive treasuries in the event of the corporate default, What do they get if they got a U.S. government credit default swap? Gold? You don't get a Treasury bond for a Treasury default.
Yeah.
What do you get? A UK gilt? I don't think so. A Euro bond? I don't think so. A Japanese government bond? I don't think so. I think it could be gold.
Yeah, possibly,
It's
possibly.
called the super currency. Oh, man, oh, man. I tell you, we must resolve this war,
Okay.
but we haven't yet had the severe retaliation from Iran.
Yeah.
Now, remember the story was 3 or 4 days ago, some high level minister of security, I don't know who he was. He was talking about, payback against the Americans, and he was killed in an overnight drone hit. Um, are you aware that in Dallas, no, was it Dallas? No, I don't know. Maybe Dallas, maybe Austin, Texas. Might have been Austin, Texas. There was a man with they believe he was an Iranian with a shirt that said Allah Akbar.
Wow, you just cut out. You literally just cut out when you started saying that. That was kind of crazy. Can you say that again?
There was an Iranian individual who I think attacked a discotheque or a bar in Austin, Texas. That was about a week ago, maybe
I saw
10
it.
days
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Um, I'm seeing I have an unstable internet connection. We're going to have to go soon here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we haven't yet seen the Iranian retaliations. Um, I don't want to speculate. I
Yeah,
don't like speculating like that.
hopefully we never see that.
Well, we haven't had much on U.S. soil,
Yeah.
and we're doing some shock and awe on Iranian land.
Yeah.
Um, and there's civilians who are being killed,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm sure they're trying to minimize that, but I don't know how well that's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Pray for the safety of our country right now. Obviously we don't want to see any terrorist attacks. Scary
We're
time.
so vulnerable, it's not even funny. We got Texas refineries, New Jersey refineries, we got facilities all over the Chesapeake that are naval. Well, there's a lot of talk about the Don Road Doctrine, Venezuela. I could have said some things about Venezuela, but not today. I believe we're going to see regime change. If not regime change in Cuba, we're going to see some major concessions that will be regarded as inadequate in Cuba toward liberty.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. It's so living in South Florida, I have a lot of friends that are Cuban and they're very happy about the fact that they're going to be liberated and that's obviously where they came from. And then even Venezuelan friends, the same thing. Even a lot of Persian friends. I have a ton of Persian friends from living in LA for many years as well. And these everyone seems to be very happy because, obviously their people have been greatly oppressed and especially the women. But it's just I am very weary if who is going to take over these countries? Regime changes usually don't ever end on a positive note.
We're going to see attempts to put the Shah's son.
Yeah. And he's been campaigning for his entire life. Why now? Like, is he even up for it?
Why now? Because we're going to rescue the gold and we got to
Yeah.
pay him back. Okay,
But you get what I'm saying though.
I don't have a good answer. I have only
Okay.
my flippant answer. We're going to pay them back after getting the gold. Um, by the way, the cabal gold that's being held that Trump wants, that's not the large gold. Iran has like 50,000 tons of gold.
Wow.
It's a 5,000 year empire.
Yeah. A lot of gold.
They've got so much gold. That's why they've been targeted by the city of London. That's why they've been demonized. They've got dozens of thousands of tons of gold. I just throw out that there's 50,000.
Wow. And what do we have? 8,000?
8,000. And by the way, do you ever hear about Saudi gold?
No, not really.
Why?
I don't know. Why?
Because they're not our enemy.
Okay, okay.
What do they have a lot of gold?
I would assume.
Is it considered sacred?
Yes.
Yeah. They've
Okay.
actually offered some of their sacred, it's not called temple gold. That's the Indian, and in India they call it temple gold.
Temple gold?
Oh, they have a word. I can't think of the right word, but it's the religious sacred gold. Saudi is offering some of it to the BRICS nations to provide a gold foundation for their financial systems, which
Okay.
tells me they've got a lot. I've
Yeah,
asked my
yeah.
contact, give me a rough number. What do you think Saudis hold? And he said, between 50 and 100,000 tons. Yeah.
Wow.
And they
That's a
don't
lot.
exactly make that available for the city of London, but maybe they have somewhat.
Mm,
Okay, playing with the
interesting.
city of London is a very delicate game.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to be careful. You cross them, and before you know it, your entire family is murdered.
So
Um,
will Trump cut the head of the snake?
well, we thought we did with Khamenei in Iran.
I mean, the guy is so old.
I know, but we thought we did with 40 of his major mullahs.
And there's five people behind every one of those people to replace them.
That's what I hear, and that's what I believe. And I don't know. What we have to do is somehow bring about a mutiny with the Revolutionary Guard. It's their Praetorian Guard. And notice what Obama did with the Secret Service. He corrupted it. Notice what the Canadians did with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're all corrupted. So that the first thing they do, they take control of the security group and the protectors. The Revolutionary Guard is the problem. And I don't know if they're going to be sufficiently supplied or supported in order to bring about a coup. But we're not done with this. You can't just
Yeah.
say, well, we killed Khamenei. Okay, let's get surrender talks. That's so naive and stupid. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot about this Iranian war that I don't comprehend.
Me
But
too, and I'm not gonna pretend I do. I'm not a geopolitical expert.
just keep in mind, the Iran nuclear deal was not about nukes.
Okay, yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure getting to talk with you, Dr. Jim Willie. It's always so exciting having you on my show. You are so knowledgeable on so many different topics and really have opinions that I respect. So I really haven't spoken so much about this war, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it today. And I really value your opinion.
Well, I enjoy being on your show. I like talking with intelligent hosts.
Well, thank you.
Um, I try to I try to make you feel more comfortable by being a jackass, and revert to my roots of being a jackass. I wish people would go to the golden-jackass.com website.
Yeah.
Bree, there's a phenomenon, and it's not good. It's economic depression,
Mhm.
recession, and there's a very big movement in the last 5 or 8 years. People prefer a video than they do a newsletter to read.
Yeah.
And I'm selling a newsletter, and that's the source of my income. But I also have a donate button, and I've got MJ. MJ, you're a sweetheart. I love you dearly.
Do you take crypto donations as well?
Sure.
Okay, cool. It's called Coin Donor. We should get you set up on there, and you can accept literally any single crypto, privacy coins, everything, so that it's easier for
I
you to. You
prefer
should include that.
mainly Bitcoin, which I convert to XRP.
Okay. Why don't you?
Um,
You should. Yeah, that's great. But also then, like, you can have it private as well. If you want.
um, I'd like to talk to you about that because I don't want to give my wallet address because I
Yeah,
might get hacked.
yeah, yeah. We'll have to. We gotta get you on some privacy coins so that you can have peace of mind with all
I'm
of that.
I'm I'm not an expert in that. Um, I'm expecting the XRP. We haven't talked about XRP except to resolve the issue that will require a neutral
Neutral grid.
payment asset, bridge asset. But I expect a 100, 200 fold gain.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think we all have been waiting for a
Oh,
very
I
long
heard the
time
word
at this
we in
point.
there. Does that mean you're an investor?
Oh yeah, I've been holding XRP for years.
Oh, you got it under 50 cents.
I've been in
Okay.
since like
Well, I know. But
2019 is when I got in.
wow, you're a
Yeah,
lot
so
earlier than I.
I've been waiting, for a long time, and I try not to obsess over it because I don't think that's healthy, and I don't ever want to be greedy and be looking at price go up. So then this happens in my life. I really try not to live like that. But of course,
Well,
when XRP increases, that's going to benefit all of us, and I think we're going to have the ability to do a lot of good for the world. And I think
well, there
that's
are not
what's
many of
important.
us.
Yeah, there's
That's one reason that they're not going to force a buyout. They're not going to force like a $50 buyout. They're not going to do that. There are not many of us,
yeah, there's not so much retail.
and it's getting lower every
Yeah,
month. I
yeah.
don't mean the price. I mean the number of people holding.
Yeah, of course.
From the rich list.
You are like my professor teaching me. Like I feel like class is in session today.
Well, if we want to get into a lesson, I tell you one of the most interesting would be the inelasticity of silver demand and silver supply. And
Ooh,
I'll close on
okay,
this note.
okay.
The price goes up and so does demand.
Mhm.
The price goes up and supply also went down. 10
Interesting.
years ago, the supply from mining output was higher. 10 years ago, half the price. That's
Interesting.
not an economic issue, it's a geologic issue.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
exhausting the big silver mines.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's an argument that we're running out of silver. Why
Yeah.
is it that versus 10 years ago, we're more than double the price, we're almost triple the price, 10% lower global output in mine supply for silver? We're running out. Invest in silver. It's
Yeah,
an
no, it makes
argument to
sense.
invest in
And then
silver.
also, I mean, in times of war, in time like with everything going on with AI, we need silver. It makes sense. If you're able to go buy some silver. Buy physical silver though.
Buy what you can
Yeah.
find.
I use,
There's
you know what I use? I use I Trust Capital. Have you heard of I Trust Capital?
no.
A lot of people have IRAs, so you're able to buy physical gold and silver all inside a tax advantage IRA. You can also buy XRP too. So like I rolled over my IRA back in 2020 and I put it in XRP and I don't have to pay taxes on it. And I also have gold and silver in there as well. And it's really good. I'm really glad I did that. I also I have my crypto in self custody as well. But this is a good way if you do have an IRA if you want to roll it over.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like it was a lot of benefits to people. I'll link that down below too. But guys, everyone, check out Dr. Jim Willie's newsletter. It's great. I am a subscriber. I'm subscribed to his newsletter, and I'm really excited for his next one. I'll have that
Eh,
link down below. Please support him. He needs the support. He does so much good for this world. He's educating so many people. The least you can do is subscribe to his newsletter. I encourage you to do that today. If you have any extra income, subscribe.
I'm going to cancel your costs.
No, no, absolutely. I'll never talk to you again if you cancel it. That is the one thing. No, I'm so appreciative of you coming on my show. The least I can do
If
is
I charge you
subscribe.
more, will you talk to me more?
No, no, don't charge me anymore. The economy is going good.
It's not elastic.
No, no. Well, it is a pleasure.
Okay.
I am very
All right. Well,
happy for
thanks for
you.
having me on. It's always a pleasure, and we don't have to wait 2 months.
No, no, you were
We-
busy though. I didn't want to bother you. I know you're
Oh,
busy,
that's
but
right.
now I'm going to bother you.
I was almost incommunicado. It was a real challenge for me to get set up and do the February newsletter. I
Yeah,
was very worried. Uh-oh, got to get and it's a short month.
yeah, yeah. You got this. You got this.
But I
Well,
got it.
I'm gonna have you back on whenever you want. So you just let me know, or I'll just bother you. I'll just message you like, "Come on my
Yeah, just knock on my door.
show." Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
all right. All right. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.